It's Mock Draft Monday, and Bengals fans, things look very different from last week. With the chaos of Thanksgiving weekend, surprising game results, and shifts in draft order, Cincinnati's position has moved again, so today's mock goes in a whole new direction. The Bengals step on the clock, and this time the front office has a chance to make a clean, calculated move. No snake-style double picks, no back-to-back luxury, just one opportunity to nail the selection. And honestly, it might play out perfectly. For Cincinnati's first pick, the choice lands on a player who fits exactly what this team needs: a reliable, powerful left tackle who can anchor the offensive line for years to come. Protection has to be a priority, and this pick sends a clear message: the Bengals are serious about rebuilding the trenches. Before we jump into the next Bengals draft move, make sure you subscribe, smash that like button, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a single Bengals breakdown. Alright, let's move on to the next pick. With the second selection, Cincinnati turns to the back end of the defense. The Bengals add a rangy, instinctive safety out of USC, someone who brings speed, tackling ability, and versatility across multiple defensive packages. Third round? The Bengals get back to building the wall up front. This time, it's a big, powerful guard, 6 feet 5 inches, 315 pounds, capable of playing both guard spots and even sliding to tackle when needed. The offensive line still needs upgrades, and this pick hits a major area of concern: right guard. By the time the fourth round arrives, the Bengals shift to the trenches again, this time on defense. Cincinnati grabs a high-motor defensive lineman, someone who can rotate inside, disrupt blocking schemes, and add physicality to a group that needs more juice. And then comes the fifth round, a spot where cornerback normally becomes the move. But depending on who's left on the board, the Bengals may have to adjust. Corner depth is absolutely a need, it's just a matter of whether the value matches the pick. With the next selection, the Bengals turn their attention to the secondary once again. A long, physical corner standing 6 feet 4 inches and built like a true press coverage force becomes the choice. His size, strength, and aggressive play style fit perfectly with what Lou Anarumo demands from his defensive backs. Adding him back-to-back strengthens a unit that needs more length and versatility against the AFC's growing group of elite receivers. As the draft moves deeper, Cincinnati enters the late rounds holding multiple picks. Compensatory selections help, and the strategy becomes clear: add depth, find developmental upside, and bolster the offensive trenches. With their final pick, the Bengals wrap things up by adding a raw but athletic offensive tackle, someone who can be coached into a reliable rotational piece and potentially grow into a starter. Drafting near the end of the round is never easy. Picking at 32 often feels more like selecting early in the second round, but Cincinnati made the most of it, adding size, power, and defensive speed. The early grades look solid across the board, a strong sign that the Bengals are building depth the right way. But now it's time to get realistic. Instead of projecting late-round scenarios, the Bengals look at their current position, picking 8th overall. Sitting this high gives Cincinnati real leverage and options. With the top defensive prospects already off the board, including 2 interior defensive stars and the premier edge rusher, the Bengals face a crossroads. At number 8, Cincinnati doesn't need to reach for a receiver or a running back. Some corners and edge rushers are tempting, but many of those prospects can still be targeted later without losing value. That's why the smarter move might be strategic: trade back, gain additional picks, and build more capital for a deeper, stronger draft class. A team like Miami could easily come calling, looking to jump ahead for their own priority player. For the Bengals, that kind of opportunity, dropping a few spots while gaining extra selections, could reshape the entire draft and set the team up for long-term success. Cincinnati decides to play the board smart. Instead of forcing a pick at number 8, the Bengals move back 2 spots, securing extra draft capital, a 3rd-rounder and a 6th-rounder. Miami jumps up for a receiver, and even though Cincinnati misses out on one target, the trade still puts them in a far better long-term position. Now sitting at pick 10, the Bengals have room to breathe. The pressure of reaching disappears, and the board looks clearer. With the top receiver gone, Cincinnati shifts to a more strategic direction. A versatile defensive back like Delane becomes a real consideration here, someone who brings length, physicality, and the ability to lock down bigger AFC receivers. This move also opens the door to reshaping the entire draft. By adding those extra picks, Cincinnati now controls more of the middle rounds. 2 third-round selections create flexibility. They can double up on key defensive positions. They can target a disruptive edge rusher or interior defensive lineman early in day 2. Or they can package a pick to move up if a must-have player slides. The added capital gives the Bengals options they didn't have before. The reset continues into the 4th round, where Cincinnati can comfortably address another defensive need, such as finding a smart, athletic safety to strengthen the back end. By shifting the order, corner first, then defensive line, then edge, linebacker, and safety, the Bengals are building a draft class centered around toughness, versatility, and long-term stability on defense. The trade down didn't just add picks, it reshaped the entire direction of the draft. The Bengals now face a crucial long-term question: how long can they rely on their current tackle situation, and when is the right moment to secure a future replacement? It's not guaranteed that this is the draft where Cincinnati makes that move, but the discussion is becoming more real. At some point in the next 2 seasons, the front office will need to decide whether they stay committed to Orlando Brown Jr. or begin the transition toward a younger, more consistent option. Adding depth at tackle here makes sense. It gives Cincinnati flexibility, protects the franchise quarterback, and ensures the offensive line doesn't fall behind as the rest of the AFC elevates their pass rush units. When the dust settles, the draft simulation hands out its grades. A strong B for the class overall. The selection at pick 10 doesn't receive the highest praise, which is understandable. Delane is a player many expect to go later, somewhere in the 20s. Still, the choice fills a need and brings valuable traits to the defense. The following grades paint a similar picture: solid, balanced, and focused on long-term stability. As the real draft approaches, the evaluations will shift. Prospects will rise, fall, and rearrange themselves weekly. For now, the goal is understanding the blueprint, positional value, roster needs, and the vision for the Bengals moving forward. Cincinnati's path is becoming clearer, and each scenario helps sharpen what this team must prioritize when their real selection finally arrives.